waiting for YouTube to pick up. Okay, there it goes. Looks like I might be live. Hello, YouTube. Well, person watching on YouTube. Anyways, should have a better camera hopefully by the end of the week. Probably sooner, because it should be 2-day Amazon shipping. Yeah. So I'm not going to be working on Relic tonight, that game. I'm going to be working on something slightly different. I really quick need to send out an email here while I'm talking. But a buddy from work and I are going to be working on a game together, and we've been talking about this for a while. And, well, not a while. It's been not very long, really. So I thought I'd do a little work on that tonight and get some stuff laid out. We've been just kind of talking back and forth. I want to get some boilerplate stuff in, maybe. But let me see. Well, I can maybe send this out later, but this isn't going to be SDLC. It's going to be a MonoGame project using a library I have called Coldsteel. And Coldsteel isn't really it's not the greatest library in the world. It's just things that I've done that seem to have worked, and a lot of it's based off of how I assume Unity is doing some of their stuff, but only for 2D, and I don't know. I used it this last Ludum Dare, and I worked on it a little bit during that, and I prototyped out some of it prior to that in another version of Coldsteel. And again, very rudimentary, but it's out there. If you go to my GitHub account, you'll see Coldsteel here. I do have a little sample game. It's kind of crappy called Derp Fender. I don't know if I ever showed that. Let me see if I can bring it up here quick. It's really not that great. There's some minor improvements I need to make to it, but just 1 second here. Okay, so there's this fading effect added. I gotta make, but anyways, you can just, it's not even really a game. It's just, you know, yeah, that fading effect. I need to fix that. The transitions. Well, might be loud if they come over YouTube. But anyway, that's basically just an example of how you can use it. But so we're gonna be building it. Using this as kind of the engine framework. I don't know what you would actually call it. I guess I called it an engine. I'm not really sure what the difference is between that terminology. I've never sat down and said, okay, this is what distinguishes a framework from an engine from a, you know, whatever, a library, whatever else you'd call it. I don't know if it's one's a subset of the other one or what, but anyways, I pulled the code down on GitHub, and I'm going to try something here. I set up scene switching, so if I do need to do any adjustments. Okay, there, it picked me up on the other one. Sounds like my daughter's trying to get in again. She just loves being on camera, apparently. I don't even think she knows she's on camera, but maybe if she did, she wouldn't want to come in. Maybe. I don't know how shy she is. I don't know if she'd actually understand, but anyways, I think when I click these, it should switch back and forth, hopefully seamlessly between the two. Yeah, so anyways, what I've done is, let me just kind of take a look here. In my where I keep a bunch of repos for things, I have this Cloverfire games. It's Cloverfire. It's basically that's just going to be a it's a working title or a I don't know, just something that we can call it just so we can get started. We haven't really decided a name on it yet. But Cloverfire, I've set up just kind of a default project in here. One of the things that I've done, and I wish I could, I can't really zoom in on this, I suppose, but is I set up a shared project, and then I set up a particular Windows DirectX binding with MonoGame. If you take a look at Coldsteel and the way I set up that, you can see there's Coldsteel. It's a shared project which has everything in it, pretty much. And then we have particular desktop GL, DirectX, and Windows Universal builds that reference the different versions of MonoGame that we'll be using. And so I can build whichever one I need for whichever platform I'm targeting. Presumably you could have other Android or whatever else you need in here for different platforms. And just doing the shared project thing, I'll switch back to this one. It makes it easier to just build across those different platforms quicker. So I don't know. I know that they were used before doing universal apps for Windows 10, or Windows 8 rather, 8.1, when you're going to like Windows Phone or to universal apps or UAP or whatever. But now it seems like they're all kind of in one build, because I think they actually literally are the same code base, not just shared code between the two. So, but shared projects work out nice, I found. But right now I'm really only referencing DirectX. One thing, and I've thought about this a little bit, and I was thinking about trying to use Git submodules. I haven't really used them before to kind of tie these two projects to each other, but I think it's easier just to say, okay, you've got in the same folder you need to have your game and the reference to Coldsteel. So I'm just going to, of course, when I go down here and do this, rebuild it, if I ever need to do editing. If I build it for release, that should just give me a bin folder here with the different DLLs I need. So I'm just going to reference whichever one I need here. And, you know, what do you know? It's already actually pointing right where I need it to be. So Coldsteel DX, boom. And I think that's all I should need, just to make sure I've got reference to it. So this is the default game stuff that comes in with a MonoGame instance. What I did is I deleted it out of Windows DX and I copied it over into my shared project, because any particular binding that we'd have would need it. This should actually be called Cloverfire. Oh, not Cloverfire, but Cloverfire game. And then I usually just get rid of all this stuff because I don't use it. Just stylistically, I like to have underscores. And then this will represent there's no really reason to create this otherwise, but a Coldsteel initializer. And I'm not sure if this would be the greatest pattern, but hey, it works. And then what you have here is you need to initialize up your controls and register stages. So stages are kind of like screens or levels, that kind of a thing. The other thing you need to do here is add, let me see. There's actually a component model in MonoGame XNA already. I just never really got used to using it. So anyways. Add component, components.add, new Coldsteel component, and then it takes the game, and which is this, and the initializer, which is also this. So you could have those separate if you want, but I just figure why not just put them in. The last thing you need to do is set up a single stage. So just up here I'm going to, because right now if you run it, it'll try to load a stage from the stage registry, and if you don't have it in there, it'll throw an exception. So you have to have at least a stage. So what I'm going to do is just create a folder for my stages, and I'm going to make one called, I think just, I don't know if I should have a title screen or a main menu. I suppose it really doesn't matter. I'll just create a title scene for now. If we don't need it, or a title stage rather. If we don't need it, we'll just delete it later. But it'll just get something started here. And this is a game stage, which is a class in Coldsteel. Okay. And boom. I'm going to just have to register that here. Now, one thing I hadn't thought of is I probably could just register the namespace and say everything in here is a proper stage. I'm not sure. Title stage, that might be a good idea. I could also make it so that uses MEF or something like that to import them, although I don't think that would work in Windows Universal, but you could just make different levels. Okay, so that's all I should really need to get this up and going. Yep, there we go. Perfect. One more thing I'm going to do is just that fading effect. My Ludum Dare, Ludum Dare game this last time around. I wanted to have this kind of nice fade in, fade out effect, and so I just hacked it into as fast as I could into Coldsteel, and now I'm kind of regretting it, and I got to rip it out or just change it. I've added just some stuff to work around it, but let me see, what was that called? It was called the Canis incident. Let's just see. I've got an XE probably sitting out there. Windows DX bin. I'll just show you quick. So you see, I wanted to do the whole fade in. Now I don't know if you're getting the noise that I'm getting. You might be, but you see the kind of fade in, fade out. That's kind of what I was going for there. Yeah, I'm assuming that you're probably getting the noise here. Alright. Boom, you get this screen here. I never really played through this. This is all built using the Coldsteel stuff. All original artwork, which wasn't made very quickly. Well, actually, it was made very quickly because I didn't have it, but anyways. Oh, that's terrible noise, too. These are all procedurally generated. It's probably coming through YouTube really loud, so sorry. Oh, there's a narwhal unicorn, as you can see. Anyways, I'm just gonna kill her off here. Anyways, so that was that game. I forgot how I even got on that, but oh yeah, the fading. So I think I have skip fade, which eventually will be deprecated and removed. But for now, I want to have different ways to do transitions, because you want to have, you know, like a slide in or a fade slide in or a slide, you know, like there's probably a bunch of different ways to do it. I just haven't found an elegant way to implement that yet. Now I think if I run it, you see it just goes right to the cornflower blue, which I think set a global default background color, which is cornflower blue, XNA cornflower blue to start, or I can just on this go background color equals color, you know, whatever I want. And yeah, there's hard dependencies on XNA, or the XNA framework MonoGame, but as you can see, there's the red. Move that though. So let me just commit this quick. References, should add these in two things. Anyways, I'll just talk to him about how to set that up later, or put it in a README or something. Okay. So, we're gonna have obviously a title stage. Maybe not a title stage. Not obviously a title stage. We'll probably have a main menu, all that stuff. We have a work item out there, or a task to actually storyboard out kind of the different scenes and things we're going to have for the game, so we can get the different stages in place. One thing I know we'll have is an actual gameplay, like a core gameplay type thing. And I think, we haven't really decided yet, we're still just really in early talking about this, but I want to just get some just basic stuff out there so we can start tinkering and playing and prototyping. And if we throw all this away, that's fine, but we'll build it up as we go. There'll be a gameplay stage. And I might as well just load that one. Excuse me. Oops. A game stage. Now, you can override on this initialize and load content. I don't know why I separated these out. I think the idea was that the load content could be done during a loading screen. I don't know if I've wired it up to do that quite yet, or how I would do that yet. But the load content would be done during some sort of loading screen, and then the initialize would be after that's done. Maybe still during a loading screen, I don't know. But here's where you load all the content for the game, and here's where you just initialize everything to get going. Obviously, I'll want to probably carry over the skip fade for now until I rip that out, just because it's annoying otherwise. It's a nice effect for that one game. Anyways, so I think we were kind of going off of what I have for that derp finner. I basically need some boilerplate content, which I do have sitting around. In fact, I think I've got a folder for it. If you go out to, I should show you guys this Pwn video later. It's something I made in college, like in 2004 time frame, I think. It's laughably hilarious. Embarrassingly and laughable. Anyways, okay, so I think I created out on GitHub. Yep, a Sprite Junkyard, which is just a bunch of sprites that I have from various Ludum Dare games and things I've created. And I assume that I've got that in here somewhere. Oh, I probably put it in our repos. I don't know why I have two levels here. These might be just folders I've got stuff in that aren't under source control, or are but aren't under Git. Actually, that's probably what it is. So Sprite Junkyard. So, and I put these under Creative Commons, I think. So if you want to use any of these items, they're not exactly the greatest things in the world, but feel free. But what I do have in here, I believe, is a ship. So I'm just going to go into here, contentful, add a sprites folder. And just for now, I'll plop in that ship. And I think it's going to be kind of like almost like a fly around endless space. So I think I've got an asteroid sitting around in here somewhere. There we go. I'll throw him in there too. And again, this is just pretty much your boilerplate programmer art type stuff that you'd probably want to replace. See, I got two of these PK ships. This was the original version. This is one I redid, but I'll throw a pirate in there as well. I think I called him pirate. Yeah. If you end up playing that that one, wow, that was weird. That one game that I was playing through, and you get to the boss level, this is what the boss looks like. Spoiler alert, but that's what it is. So so yeah, I think I'll just start with that. I mean, I've got some, ooh, you know what, I could put this kind of star thing. I think I've got this glittering star, and this was used in my second Ludum Dare game, which wouldn't be too hard to show off if I haven't done that already. Just one sec. I'll just kind of log in here quick. Oops. Okay, what am I doing wrong? Okay, sorry. I've got about 8 renditions of the same stupid password that... Okay, so that star was from the Connected Worlds of a Guy and a Spirit, which is this one. So, if you go look at it, it goes this Play LD Game, LD30 index. So this was this kind of website. I think I still own it. myldgame.com. And the idea was it was going to be kind of like a hosting type thing, but if you're like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, you should just check out itch.io because it's way, way better, and it's almost exactly what I was looking at doing. So, anyways, so this is that game, and that's that star texture that you can see there, how they're kind of jumping and glimmering, glinting, I don't know what you would call it, but anyways, the idea here is that you can't actually die by falling off the platform, but your ghost here, he can jump higher than you, but the whole point is to get your main guy to the door. And now there's things that you learn, like, okay, the spirit can jump farther and he can see stuff that you can't, and you got to keep your limit down here so you can see as you move farther away. Now this is the hardest level. You got it, these spirit destroyer things that if you hit them, you'd basically just die automatically. And you've got to jump this guy over here, and then you've got to perfectly, and yeah, I could sit here probably for an hour and not finish it. I bet. I actually, during it, I contacted a friend and let him see an early version of the game, because I'm like, I don't exactly know if this is winnable, and I need to figure that out. So I sat there and I played it, and I'm like, is it just really hard or is it unwinnable? And I finally got it to the point where I won, so I'm like, well, it's winnable. But anyway, so that star texture I had up there, that's what you see kind of flowing in from the back here. And come on. Oh, thank God. Now, I just have to make sure he doesn't hit the darn things. Okay, then there's these spirit donuts or whatever, and you gotta collect them, and they can allow you to go farther away from your ghost, but, yeah. So, and that's this kind of level here is the final one. As you can see, there's only so much time to make a Ludum Dare game. So I think the idea is I had to go here with this guy, and then I have to jump down here up, and then I gotta collect enough donuts to make it back in time. There we go. Then I push that. Now this guy falls, and then he's got to jump over like that. Okay, so that was the extent of my second Ludum Dare game. This was built using Phaser, which I haven't really reprised using that as an engine or a framework since. I don't know why. I like MonoGame better for gaming. I don't know why. It's just something I've tried Unity, I've tried other things. Obviously SDL2 I'm trying now. But ultimately I've just kind of stuck with MonoGame. So that's where that star texture came from. You can see I've got a spaceship one. Those were from Adrift, which was kind of like a roguelike type game. Since I'm showing those off anyways, I might as well see if I've got one of those sitting around out here. I wonder if I've got an original version. Probably my downloads, because I think I was stripping out the sprites from it. Now I don't know if I left them in there or not, but I can always just Let's see if I've got it. We'll just go by name here. I might have just called it LD 35, 34. These are other people's. Did I already? Yes, I did. Liam Amiss. Did I put him in? Oh, this was from that one. Okay. 30. I could have sworn I downloaded it, but apparently I didn't. Well, that's easily fixable, I think. I'll just go and find it again, right? Let's just grab the Windows binary version of it out of Dropbox here. Go ahead and download it. So this will just, I'll just show you the oh, there we go. All right. Oh, I hope it's not full screen. Okay, good, perfect. So this was, like I said, it's kind of like a roguelike game. This is kind of the learning level. Now the controls on this are really kind of wacky because basically you need to, oh shoot, I hit the thing. Okay, so if you go left, it brings you left. If you go right, it brings you right. Now if you hold left, or sorry, if you hold right and then tap left, you turn right. If you hold left and turn and tap right, you turn left. So it takes a little bit to figure out the controls, but once you do, it's not too bad. And your whole point is try to get to level 42. And wow, this is really slow feeling. Anyways, it's really easy to kill those peacekeepers. Now, basically, when you kill them, you can turn in metals and organics, which you see kind of down here. Well, you can't see my mouse, but at the bottom here, you have metals and organics, and those basically get converted to fuel or hull. Now, you can mine them freely from the planet, but that consumes fuel, and it's not at a good rate. So really, planets are kind of I never had enough time to actually balance things, so the planets are kind of like, yeah, you should never do that. You should always just attack peacekeepers because they give you fuel and metals in grand quantities, which you can then turn in. Yeah. Also, mining asteroids kind of makes sense if you need metals, which will repair your hull. I'm surprised we haven't hit a pirate yet. Let's keep going until we find one, and then I'll access this out. Okay, so those are pirates. You can see they come up and attack you, and I'm not too bad after that. So I didn't intend on those pirates to fly to you like that, but that's just kind of how it worked out. And it ended up being kind of like a feature instead of a bug. Anyways, so that was I can't remember which Ludum Dare that was, but all the assets for this game are in there, as well as, if I'm looking at them, let's see if I left the content in here. I probably did. A Liam, which was would have been April. Oh, and this one is full screen, so I'm gonna cancel that one. But Liam was kind of a side scroller beater up type thing. I think I might have gone through this on another one. And there's some blocks in here from my very first one where I tried to build kind of this isometric mining game. Anyways, so this is all the assets kind of basically from my various Ludum Dare games. And I figure what I'll do is I'll just, as I come up with programmer art crap, I'm just going to throw them in there. And again, they're available then on GitHub. If you just find my name, Sean Rakowski, or S. Rakowski rather, and go to my Sprite Junkyard, you can just steal these all you want. No big deal. Not steal them. They're freely available. You can't steal which is given. Anyways, so now I've got those sprites and stuff. One thing you have to do, and I haven't figured out a good way to just kind of streamline this, but is just to add them to the content pipeline here, which will build them out into probably XNB files or whatever the heck they are. And now we'll have them available for loading. So here I just have to go load content, 2D, and I give it the path. So I want to load the ship, or rather, sprite ship. Now I could just do this over and over again, or I think I made it so that you can just again, I could probably just look in a folder and just say load everything in there. Well, you wouldn't want to necessarily load everything. I could also try to put them all into a single sprite sheet. But so here we'll load up the different textures that we want. Okay. Why is that all not saved? Okay. And then initialize. This is really, it should almost be called like create game object. So a stage is like a, you know, like a scene in the world or whatever, and there's game objects that you add into it. Now, I could go var geo equals new game object, and then do just add game object, or I made it as a shortcut. I can just do var go equals add game object, and if I don't provide it one, it'll just create it for me. And then you can basically initialize it. Now you don't necessarily need to grab it. You could also just do add game object. That will add one. Now if I want it to be visible in the world, what I need to do is add a component. And it'll be a sprite renderer, which is in my renderers namespace. And that takes a layer. Now there's a default layer that you can set up. There's ways to just add layers if you want later. And default is always at 0, so you can add layers kind of above and below that, and it'll draw them according to that. And you can have, if you do a camera, you can tell them to skip certain layers or whatever too, so that you can do a HUD layer or whatever. There's a lot of ways to play around with that. And then I'll just, now I could have received back these textures up here, but I could also just do this, get and look it up, essentially, based off the path. So it's preloaded already. I just need to say I wanted to get the one. It puts it kind of like in a dictionary behind it, the scenes. So this will be our ship. And I have a shortcut to set position, which we'll just set to 100. And you can see that the ship was loaded and it's in there. Now I'll probably want to do like background color equals color dot black, so it's easier to see. And I gotta figure out how to get this to show up here. There's probably a way to do it. I've never really needed to do it. So you can see I got the ship there. Now, one of the things that I know Coldsteel doesn't currently have, I don't think I added it yet, is a way to do twin stick control kind of thing on an Xbox controller, which I think is what we're trying to target, at least for some of it. Obviously there'll be keyboard mouse control as well, or just keyboard control or whatever. But assuming we don't make it heavy keyboard, I would like to have, if it's a twin stick type fly around shooter, I'd like to hook it into the Xbox controller so I can, you know, move around my sprite based on that. So I think what I'll do quick is implement that. I think I have some start out there already. You can kind of do it with the mouse. Before I do that, I do want to add just one thing in here too. Well, actually a couple things. So I'm going to add the camera, which is a game object. It kind of pulls off of game object, but the camera itself is a component on a game that can be added to a game object. So, and the things that then you have with this is that you can build out objects in that, but they have no behavior by default. You can add collision detection, rendering. I think I've got some rudimentary particles. There's some other stuff you can add in there, but really to add in your game object or some of your stuff, you need to add behaviors, which behaviors are basically like scripts in Unity. I think they're actually called mono behaviors in Unity, which is what I based a lot of this off of. But what I want to do is create a follow so that the camera follows the ship, and I'm just going to make it really the behavior, I'm not going to add any dampening or anything like that. It's just going to be wherever the ship is, that's where you are. So the camera always moves with it. I just need to do follow behavior, I think is what I'll call it. Yeah. Okay, so in behaviors here, now this is a behavior without the U because I don't know why. And it needs the game object, the target that it wants to follow. Oops. And then we'll override update. And I'll just say this.transform, which is a component, kind of a default component on everything, because just about every... you could actually, I think, remove the transform, but it screws up a lot of stuff, so it's just on there. So its position we'll just set to be the target's transform position. Perfect. And that should give us, the camera should always be centered on the guy now. Well, somewhat centered on. Oh, no, it's not, because I haven't added the behavior yet. However, when I did add the camera, by default, it puts it at the origin. So it's kind of like, I don't even know what it's kind of like. But anyways, it targets, it puts it at 0, 0, the origin, versus when you normally look at a MonoGame window, like 0, 0 is up in the left, the left upper corner, and then you're kind of going positive. So now it basically goes, that gets shifted down here, so it kind of puts it at the center screen. That's all baked into that. But anyways, so I just need to add into my gameplay stage, I need to add this behavior to the camera. I'm trying to put it afterwards. Follow behavior, and it will follow the ship. Okay, so now, assuming I coded it correctly, yeah, so if I could move the ship, you wouldn't actually really see it doing anything, because the camera would be set to its exact position, it would move, and so forth and so on, so you wouldn't actually see this moving around at all. In fact, it's at 100, 100, but you wouldn't know that. So really I could just remove that, and now it'll be at the origin 0, 0. and it looks the same as what it did. Because there's no point of reference, right, until you actually add other stuff to it. So if I put an asteroid in there and then I fly around the asteroid, you can do that. But that's not exactly what I wanted to do here. So what I want to do is add a ship controller, and then I want that based off the joysticks, which I don't think I ever really put in there. So so we'll just do ship controller. Okay, and this will be a behavior. So an update, I go if, now input is part of the class, get control, and this I believe I would have called a directional control. Yep, okay. And the key would be like move, or move ship, we'll call it. That'll be the key for it. Then if I say, actually I don't want to do if, direction equals direction. Yeah. Now I don't have player indexes in here yet. I made these functions specifically so that I could add in later. I could do something like player index .1, which is what you'll see a lot, and I should probably call it get direction instead of just direction, but whatever. So this gets the vector, 2D vector that the controller is going. Yeah, and so then I would just say, well, just to keep it simple, really, I could just say move in that direction. So I'll just normalize it. So I've got the, yeah, maybe. No, you know what I'm gonna do is I'll just go this dot transform dot position plus equals direction times some speed times the delta. Now, I think that I have it bound into milliseconds, the delta, so we don't want this to be too much. So, like, I think 0.6 might be a good speed, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, again, you won't actually see that on it, but here though we go and say add component. New ship controller. Okay. Now, if we run this, it's going to throw an exception, or it should. Yep, because it can't find this directional control. Yeah, there's no registered control with the key move ship. So what you have to do is go down into here and initialize the control. So this is where you actually register them. So let me see, add control, move ship. Now I think I've got a mouse mouse directional control, which I could add in just to kind of stub in there. And it just needs to know where the sender is. Really, that's not a very good way to implement it, but I was trying to do it for that one game, so it's just where it is. And I think, you know what, I never set a size for the screen, a specific, so it's the default. But I want to set it, so I'm just going to really quick go back here and go graphics dot preferred back buffer width, and set that to 1280. And set the height 720. So that's, I think, 720p, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, that's in the same place. What did I? Anyways, new vector 2. So what's half of 1280? I wish I could do math in my head better. 640 and 720 is 360. So that would be screen center. Okay. Now I think this should work then. Although I don't see the ship, so I'm not exactly sure what happened there. I probably moved it way too fast, and no, the camera would always catch up to it, so let's just time it up by 0 so that it just doesn't add anything. Okay. Okay, so you can kind of see the thing going towards my mouse as I move it around. Actually, let me turn on mouse quick. Show. I think there's a way is mouse visible. So you can kind of see it trying to move towards my mouse. I don't know if you can see that very well, but presumably it's trying to fly here. Oh, I see why it was going off, because the farther I get away, which the mouse was pretty far away, the stronger it's getting, right? Because the direction, the vector gets huge. Anyways, so that's what I want to be able to do, but I want to be able to do that with the controller. So for that, we need to go and make a modification to Coldsteel. So I want this to be, all right, let's flip over to that. Okay, so in here, under controls, I think I might already have a gamepad thumbstick control. I should probably call this like gamepad directional control. And yeah, so I sort of almost have the ability to do this already, but I don't like that it's called thumbstick control. I threw this in here quick one day just to try something. Gamepad directional control. Okay. And it gamepad directional control. Okay, so and it already just goes to current gamepad state, which I think I'm just assuming is player 1. Yep, so again, I haven't added in multiplayer support yet. Just it assumes that you're using the first controller. Which is not how you do it, but I know that is not how you do it, so it's not one of those things you don't know. I'm not at the level of ignorance. I know what it is already. Anyways, so this already pretty much does what I needed to do. It just needed a better name. And you really want to be able to go and say what thumbstick. So I kind of want to hide the fact that I'm doing this underneath, because there might actually be, like, for instance, I have some Super or NES controllers, and those don't actually map into a those don't map nicely into a Xbox 360 controller layout. And so there's like a special like get joystick or something like that that's not gamepad, but it only works in OpenGL version. It doesn't work in DirectX or the other Windows Universal or other ones. But I want to be able to basically support other controllers that maybe don't map into the standard thing. So I want to probably just create an enum here and call it and have a specific name for it. So thumbsticks is probably, is that an enum or gamepad thumbsticks? So that's kind of like it's not an enum, but it's kind of, yeah. So I'm just going to create one called like directional control type, right? That'll be kind of dumb, but we'll just call it invalid 0. Actually, you know what? Who cares? We'll go left thumbstick. stick. Then in here, directional control. I'll request a directional control type. Now I could create, subclasses that this is the left thumbstick gamepad directional control, but whatever. I don't think I'm gonna care so much about it. This is just a configuration. If type equals left thumbstick, we'll return that. If type equals right, we'll return right. Otherwise, we'll just return the 0 vector. Okay. Okay. So that'll give us kind of the 2 controls that we need. I'll just rebuild that quick, which should give us access up here, switching back to Cloverfire. So instead of mouse directional control, I'm going to add new gamepad directional control, and I'm going to say left thumbstick. Okay. So now if I kick it off here, assuming I did everything right, I should be able to make that ship move, I think. Although the distance, it is moving, you can't really see it very well. I could if I actually up the speed, I think. You'd probably see it. So by default it's just there. So you can kind of see it kind of wiggling there. Now one thing it looks like I need to do is the gamepad is inverted to the Y is inverted, so when I push up I'm actually going down. When I push down I'm going up. So I need to invert that. I wonder if there's a way I can just go like invert here, or actually I'll just times it by probably a more elegant way to do that again, but if it works, I'm just gonna go with it. Oops, actually yeah, no, that's right. Oops. Yeah, I suppose. Okay, so again, I'm gonna probably make that even more, so hopefully it'll show. So now I push up, you can see up, down, left, right. You can't really see that very well. Oh, derp, because switching back here. See how I multiplied the X by 0? That's what we refer to as a brain fart in common circles, which is basically just zeroing out the zeroing it out. So okay, switching back. All right, there. So we've got some movement now. There's a smoothing that goes on with these Xbox controllers, and I've got to look at that too. But by default, you can see it's kind of clunky when I do this. There's no smoothing. Well, actually, I'll just show that quick. If I come down here, back to Coldsteel, I think I can, within my, probably have to go in here. We'll just say when we, this is all static. You know what, in the input setup, maybe I'll make that as kind of like a global setup type thing, but I think it's a static. Anyways, let's see here. Gamepad dot. Oh, I bet it's in the get state. Actually, what am I doing? I'll just undo all this. That you have to give it the smoothing, or I can't remember what exactly it's called. Gamepad get state, and then it's dead zone mode. So I think I'll just go with, now I'll make this probably have to be something configurable, I'm guessing, but I think circular is the one I want to make it kind of a little bit more, oops, why I keep doing that, Control Shift B. I think that makes it a little less, yeah, it's kind of smooths it out a little bit better if I'm not mistaken. So I struggled with that one day. But you can see I kind of make that guy move around. Now, again, there's no frame of reference because I don't actually have anything I'm moving against. But, I mean, it's doing what I wanted it to do. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this quick down back here. Oh, I actually do have a NuGet package for a really old version of it out there that I started going off of. I don't think I actually, I think I didn't actually adjust this, so I'll just undo, or no, that's the one I did, never mind. I was thinking of something else. Did I, yeah, I can just leave that there. So, okay. Better thumbstick support, gamepads, controls. Anyways, sync that up so everyone's got it. Cool. So I kind of like this, building out my engine that I can reuse across stuff while I create different types of games and things up here. So just so we can have some reference that we are moving around, I'm going to go ahead and just add another game object in here. Since I'm loading up Pirates and Asteroids anyways, might as well add some. We'll just say asteroid, set position 100, let's set it at like 300. Okay, so you can see that asteroid down there. Now, you can see I'm actually with the camera moving around here. Now you see how he's still jumping around there a little bit? That's because I'm guessing what happens is the camera is updating after the ship is updating, or before the ship is updating. So its position gets set, and then the camera is trying to catch up to it next frame. So, but it's fine because we'll eventually all these cameras should have dampening anyways. So that kind of effect isn't a really big deal. But now that I've got something to actually look at, you can see that frame of reference is actually being set. So, yeah. One other thing we could add here quick is to just add some rotation to the ship so that when I am moving, it adjusts. However, it's hard to say because in a twin stick shooter, and let me see here. I'm not sure that I have a good example. But you tend to move around and then you shoot in a particular direction. Now, with a ship, would you want to be aiming the way you shoot, or would you want to be aiming the way you move? That's the question, right? Well, since I've got it, we'll just add the logic in there to make him face whichever way I'm going. Now, I always get this screwed up, but I think it's like math atan 2 is what I want to set to get the angle from the direction. So math.atan 2, and then it's like I need the x and the y, or direction.y, direction.x. I'll have to play with this a little bit, but this dot transform dot rotation equals, I think that will, I'll probably have to set this to float. So it's not quite going the way I want it to, and yeah, that's all hosed up. So if I'm going down this way, it's actually going up that way. I think I've got to make some of these negative or something. Oh, is it this one? Nope, that's kind of doing inverted of what I want. So what if I do the X? I could probably Google this and have this in about 5 seconds, but just to... There we go. So I think anyways. No, I gotta invert both of them. Wow. Come on, work. No, what did I do? Maybe I've got to switch the X and Y back and forth. Maybe it is YX. I should just go Google it. Okay, Y is definitely not right. Looks like X is right. You can tell I'm a pro. Okay, there we go. That's the way I want it to look. Now you couldn't tell, but based on my actual thumb motion here, I want it to go whichever way I'm actually facing. So now as I move this around, you can imagine I'm shooting with my right thumbstick. Now the ship's always facing whichever way I'm flying, but I'd be shooting whichever way my right thumb is going. So I know I could add it so where I trigger here, and trigger shoots whichever way I'm facing, which is I think the way Asteroids actually did it. And you had just kind of like one joystick and a button that said shoot whichever way I'm facing. But twin stick shooters obviously kind of like one step up from that, because you can move with one, aim with the other, which allows you to do that kind of fast-paced evasion of enemies, plus, you know, firing on them or whatever. So anyways, I feel like that rotation is not going right off the correct origin. Well, you know, it looks like it's proper though. I don't know. Oh, I lost him. Oh, there he is. Okay, so that works, which is kind of neat, right? We're getting somewhere. Anyways. Camera. Thumbstick control. Cool. So we'll sync that up so he can have it when he wants, if he wants to work on something. Well, I'll probably be putting my daughter to bed here soon, so I'm going to call it good, at least for streaming for right now. Maybe tonight. Maybe I'll be on later. I don't really know. But anyways, so that's just some kind of initial setup with Coldsteel. If you'd like to learn a little more about what I'm doing with it, let me switch it to here. You know, feel free to contact me. I've got some interesting stuff starting to grow in it. It's getting a little bit bigger, anyways. You can see I got us a whole solution full of stuff, and there's definitely improvements that need to be made to it. As you can see with my screen transitions weren't exactly put together. My particle system's kind of crappy. My collision detection really needs to be optimized terribly, which is something I ran into with the Ludum Dare game I made last, because I sat there and tried to do like quad tree type stuff, and it was like late on Saturday, and I'm like, holy crap, what am I doing? So anyways, yeah, so if you have any questions about what I'm doing or want to reach out to me and talk about game stuff, we could do some live stream stuff together. I want to do some pair programming on this stuff. It'd be kind of fun. Feel free to reach out to me. Sean at mylifeforthecode.com or srakowski@live.com, or leave a comment in the YouTube stuff. I know I don't really have subscribers yet, but hopefully if I continue on live streaming and maybe put some actual videos out there that are tutorials or things, maybe somebody will subscribe to me one day and have questions and whatever. Maybe after I get a better webcam, because this one is crap. So anyways, have a good night.